All right. How's everyone doing? Good to see you not on Zoom. So we're going to be talking about sBTC-powered applications, but in addition to that, we're going to be just talking about Stacks 3.0. There's a lot going on. Stacks core engineering. And I guess first, we're going to do some introductions. And I made a presumption that these guys are all too modest to justly introduce themselves, so I'm going to introduce them for you. We'll start with myself. I'm the ecosystem project manager at the Stacks Foundation. Started off managing a lot of grants, and that's extended into helping all of the different working groups coordinate together. And so at the far end of the stage, this is Andre, who's the product manager for the sBTC protocol. Andre's been involved in a lot of really exciting things, Zcash, Citycoins. He's leading all of the partnerships in dealing with getting different signers on board for the sBTC protocol, supporting premier app developers, and all different kinds of things that we'll get into. And then we've got a couple of wizards in between Andre and me. So we'll start off with two OGs. We got Frieger in the middle and Mike. And so before I was the ecosystem project manager, like I said, I was managing the grants program. And these guys, their names are all over the grants application. So there's over 1,000 grant applications in the history of the program, 700 applicants. Well, Frieger was the number 5 application ever submitted was by Frieger. He holds the record for the most applications ever submitted at 16. He holds the record for the most grants completed at 7. And then Mike is in second. Mike was number 12 application ever submitted, and he's submitted 7 applications, completed 5. So he's got a pretty strong conversion percentage there. Frieger's been involved in co-authoring 3 different SIPs. So that includes SIP 9, which is NFTs on Stacks and token metadata. He's also a core contributor to Rider and started Frieger Pool and was a resident specializing in decentralized identity. And then Mike, I'm probably going to make you all blush, but co-authored SIP 15, co-founder of Residio, co-founder of Ecosystem DAO, co-founder of Clarity Innovation Lab, and is now building a lot of really cool sBTC tooling, the sBTC bridge, the APIs, among other things. And then lastly but not least, we got Jude, who's, I like to call him the Forrest Gump of Stacks. Like in every photograph, you'll see Jude in the corner somehow, but in this case, it's not photographs, it's code commits. So if you go to GitHub, Stacks Network, Stacks Blockchain repo, you'll see on the leaderboard, Jude has almost 10,000 commits, 2 million lines of code added, and 1 million lines of code omitted from the code base.
Amazing.
So on top of that, he's the technical architect behind a lot of amazing projects. He's co-authored 9 out of the 21 SIPs, and he's the head of the technical advisory board. So, all right. Anything else that you guys would like to add? Any credentials that I missed? Apologies if I did.
You're making us blush, Will.
All right. So we'll start by just some context setting. So, Andre, let's try and help everyone speak in a common language here, which is something that we do. So, Stacks core engineering. There's a couple of terms that we're going to help define for people. What is Stacks core engineering? What are working groups? And then, most importantly, what are the working groups working on right now?
Sure. So Stacks core engineering is really how we work together in a decentralized ecosystem. So sBTC and the upcoming Nakamoto upgrade are truly community-led initiatives with dozens of contributors and many different companies working on this We build in public. Everything we do is open source, and working groups are how we organize ourselves to this end. So currently there are 4 primary working groups that we've organized. sBTC is the first one, which is obviously the decentralized two-way peg to Bitcoin. We have Nakamoto, which has some significant improvements to the Stacks chain that will improve the overall scalability and security of the network. We have Clarity WASM, which has some upgrades to the Clarity virtual machine, integrating that with WebAssembly. And lastly, quality of life, which is primarily focused on implementing security and testing standards and best practices to make sure that everything we do is secure and efficient.
So Jude, when we're thinking about the current efforts around we could call Stacks 3.0, we've got sBTC, we've got Nakamoto. You were here really from the beginning. We've had a series of large launches throughout the history of the project. Going, let's say Stacks 2.0 was probably the largest launch in my memory, which was about 2 years ago. Curious if you could help people get a sense of comparison-wise, what the ongoing efforts, how they compare with previous launches.
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, we've gone from a handful of people writing everything to dozens and dozens. It's a 10x improvement at least. We're far more decentralized than we were in the past. The working groups are staffed and run by people across several different ecosystem entities. And yeah, we have a lot more pull requests from a lot more people to go through nowadays than we did in the 2.0 days.
Yeah, there's 50 plus members of Stacks core engineering, I would say. And then on top of that, that's technical contributors. And then on top of that, there's a ton of people that are planning amazing events like this, that are dealing with support for developer advocacy and founder support, things of that nature. So I want to real quickly get into, just get a sense of Frieger, Jude, Mike, Andre, what, if we could just kind of go around the horn real quick, what's on your plate right now? What are what's in flight? What are the projects that you're working on and the contributions that you feel like you're lending a hand with? Mike?
Yeah, thanks. Well, the big thing going on at the moment is the developer release for sBTC Bridge.
Which we'll be utilizing in the hackathon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So there's been a huge effort. It's been a really amazing experience to be kind of part of this decentralized team of people. Incredible for me personally. My personal contribution is building the UI, building a kind of canonical version of a bridge application that can use the technology. There's far more moving parts, which I'm sure Frigga maybe will elaborate on. And these are just coming together in the developer release. So there's a way of actually running sBTC on a pure development environment.
Great.
Thanks.
Frieger.
Yeah, I worked on the smart contract for sBTC, and also I wanted to get more into the Rust development of the Stacks blockchain, so I took the opportunity to use the sBTC code base to contribute a bit, and also worked on the binary of the sBTC release.
Could you tell us a little bit about Clarity Bitcoin library?
Yeah, so Clarity has a view on the Stacks blockchain, and there's a library smart contract that allows you to verify that the Bitcoin transaction exists. It was mined on the Bitcoin blockchain. So you can do some actions on the Stacks side only when you have verified that the Bitcoin transaction exists. So this is a helper library smart contract that other smart contracts can use, and sBTC is doing this as well. So You mint sBTC only if there is a correct corresponding Bitcoin transaction on the Bitcoin network. So you have a proof on-chain that it's OK to mint SBT or burn and SBT. Yeah.
So Jude, we're talking about two chains kind of communicating. We've got this Clarity Bitcoin library. Like, help us understand. I know you've been working on a lot dealing with improving transaction time and the block time, Bitcoin finality, fork awareness. Maybe give us a little bit of a broader understanding of the main components that are going into the blockchain upgrade at this point.
Sure. I have a longer talk about this tomorrow if y'all want to dive in with me, but the 4 principal changes that Nakamoto brings are no more forks, very fast blocks on the order of seconds as opposed to on the order of once every Bitcoin block, reduced Bitcoin MEV, so Bitcoin miners can't make money by futzing around with the transactions that honest miners send. And, I'm sorry, the 4th one here.
Reorg resistance.
That's it, yes, reorg resistance.
What was it?
Reorg resistance.
Reorg resistance.
Bitcoin finality. Attacking the Stacks blockchain is just as hard as attacking the Bitcoin chain now.
And so, Andre, I'm sure you've got some, war stories from helping product development. This is a protocol development. So, we're really all just trying to build the technology that other people are going to bring to life with applications and building really cool stuff on top of it. From a product development point of view and business development, we're trying to get other stakeholders involved. Obviously, maybe give us a sense of the smaller initiatives within sBTC product development that you're working on to help make sure that we breathe life into this protocol once it goes active.
Sure. We'll say on the product side, a lot of the upgrades that these guys were just talking about basically have the impact of bringing the user experience on the Stacks network much more closely aligned with Bitcoin. So being able to transact with Bitcoin with a user experience that's very closely aligned that also receives Bitcoin level security and finality. So with these Nakamoto rules that Jude was just mentioning, sBTC transactions will be as secure from a reorg perspective as transacting on Bitcoin. So all of this has the impact of improving the user experience on Stacks and providing that sort of enhanced usability when you're transacting with Bitcoin. On the product side, basically I do a lot here to work on ensuring that we are building the features and developing the right sort of user experience that will generate the sort of demand that we are hoping to see when sBTC goes live. Most recently, I've had the privilege of working really closely with a lot of the startups that are in the ecosystem that are preparing to launch with sBTC when it goes live. So we're working with over a dozen companies that are working on different use cases from DeFi and lending and different options platforms. And so, working with them to make sure that they're onboarded to this new developer release that we've been working on and making sure that they are set up for success since they're the ones that are going to be driving the influx of new users and applications on the network.
And what are some of the new or novel business use cases that you imagine are going to be empowered by this upgrade?
Yeah, so there's a few opportunities here for sBTC and the Stacks network that I'm really excited about. I think the first, as a general category, DeFi is a lot of the core focus with this. So I think that there's an opportunity right now for sBTC to be the best place to borrow and lend Bitcoin on-chain. By providing a good user experience for that use case alone, I think could unlock a tremendous amount of value to unlock Bitcoin's full potential as being a collateral asset, also a productive asset, allowing people to take loans against their Bitcoin and also earn a yield on it. And right now, there isn't any good way to do that on chain. And so with sBTC, our goal is to really unlock that, be able to take out a loan without going through a central counterparty. Same thing for general sort of trading use cases. As of today, it still isn't really a great way to trade Bitcoin on chain to access stablecoin liquidity. So I think there's an opportunity to provide a 10 times better user experience just between trading Bitcoin and USDC in a permissionless and non-custodial way. That's certainly where a lot of the focus is, at least at the beginning.
And so, Jude, going back to the comment with the difference between Stack 2.0 and 3.0, you know, one of the working groups called Quality of Life, still coming into, you know, its own. It's a relatively new working group, but really the mindset behind it is we want to do whatever we can to, I guess, promote decentralization and promote more and more contributors contributing to the blockchain code and give them a better quality of life experience when they come and they work with the blockchain. Just curious if there's anything that you've noticed in terms of like the developer experience that has changed about the blockchain code base and just testing and deploying a large decentralized project like this that you think is either an area that still needs improvement or an area that you've seen improvement?
Both.
Both?
Yeah, it's gotten better.
Can I have one of each?
Sure, it's gotten better. The Nakamoto code base is better factored so that you don't need to become an end-to-end expert overnight to contribute. But there's still a long way to go. The code base is, I mean, as is the case with many startups, you ship features or you die, and that means that technical debt builds up, and there's not immediate rewards or payoff for paying it down. So this time around, we're trying to do both: pay off technical debt, make the code better factored and approachable, while at the same time, you know, shaping the Nakamoto feature set.
Do you feel that there's the code base written in Rust primarily?
Yes.
Do you feel like there's been an increase in the number of developers that are coming into the orbit that have experience in Rust or have an interest in learning Rust?
Yeah, sure, there is. It's more than just learning Rust, though. You have to understand, you know, how blockchains work. The thing that makes the blockchain code base difficult to approach isn't the language per se. It's that we historically have extremely high standards for contributors, because when you launch a blockchain with new features, it's like launching a rocket. Once that engine starts, it's not stopping. Like, you either get to orbit or you die trying. There's no rollback, there's no undo button, and we're talking about nearly $1 billion of other people's money that's at stake here, so we necessarily have very high standards for contributions.
In Frieger, just curious, like, I know that you are a main player, well, a main contributor to the stacking pool space, and curious if you or Andre, if you have any thoughts on how sBTC or these upgrades, you know, are going to change the end-to-end experience of stacking, anything that comes to mind, and how the changes in consensus are going to impact that.
Yeah, so eventually stackers really have to do some work to get some rewards.
And why is that?
So it ensures that sBTC works and that we don't have minor extracted values. So they have to run software and do some signing of transactions that the Stacks miners were producing. And so it's really something that they have to do now. And for now, they, in Stacks 2.0, 2.1, and so on, they can just live without running a node.
Right.
Just make contract calls, and that's it. But with Nakamoto, they have to really contribute to the network in the real sense, I would say.
Andre, anything you want to unpack?
I can add on to that a little bit. Yeah. So when the Nakamoto upgrade goes live, the user experience for stacking is going to change pretty significantly. So I think what Frieger was alluding to there is that now users are going to be responsible for actually doing some work as part of this. And so, after Nakamoto, people who lock their STX in consensus will be responsible for both participating in validating new block production on the Stacks network, as well as processing sBTC peg-in and peg-out transactions that are coming into the network. And so in order to do that, it is going to change the user experience a little bit. You'll be required to run a Stacks signer node, which basically entails running Bitcoin D and a Stacks node to basically detect that those transactions has occurred, as well as the signer binary. But for the vast majority of typical users, the experience will still be the same. You'll be able to earn your native Bitcoin rewards. There won't be any impact to that, especially if you use a stacking pool like Fastpool that Freeger developed. The user experience is going to be largely the same.
But that's okay. If you're stacking, you're already running a node, right? Right?
And then Mike, just curious from like a founder's point of view, you've been involved in starting a lot of different initiatives. I guess how would you pitch a potential founder on building on this and say differentiating it from not just being like, there's a lot of wrapped BTC assets, like,
Yeah.
I guess in your mind,
I think
there's something about
yeah.
sBTC that's unique.
I think it sort of just bounces off of what Andre was just saying is, that this is part of the trust model of the trust minimization of sBTC Bridge, and how that uses like Schnorr signatures on layer 1 to be able to aggregate many hundreds of signatures and get a threshold vote, and that's really a key part of what we're trying to do here. And I think if you look at across the bridge space, which is a huge kind of multi-billion-pound space with many hundreds of millions of dollars lost to untrustworthy bridges or custodial solutions, I think that really highlights like the importance of this project and why it's so exciting. Another point I wanted to make as well in response to the conversation is like the importance of the foundation and people like Hero Gamer and the SIP process, that we're reviewing the SIPs for these things like in real time, and that this is a process that people can get involved in and contribute to and have a say in how these protocols work. It's an open standard.
Yeah.
I think that's really important, something that Jude's pioneered for sure. And that, part of that conversation is like we're looking at how sBTC works at the moment, and you can submit, as Fridke was saying, you can submit a transaction on layer 1, and it goes through this trust model, and you end up getting sBTC minted to an account. So you've got this one-to-one relationship. But building on that, then it's like, what do you then do with the sBTC? There are all sorts of open research questions, like how do we bridge ordinals through the sBTC protocol? So we can actually take digital assets, BRC20s, etc., from layer 1 and look at ways to manifest these things on layer 2, where we can do more stuff with them
and maintain
really
the indexing and
maintain the indexing, maintain the trust, the trust model, but the ownership model of ordinals. So they're kind of things I'm really excited about. I'm kind of like part of another DeFi startup project where we're looking at kind of like how we can integrate sBTC with DeFi protocols.
And so I just want to double click on something you said. So as a call to action for anyone that's interested, you can go to GitHub. There's 2 primary orgs within the Stacks ecosystem. There's Stacks-Network and Stacks.gov. If you go to Stacks-Network, you can see the discussion boards with all of the topics that we're talking about, the repos. If you go to Stacks.gov, you can actually go and review the 2 SIPs that you just mentioned, Mike, which I believe were just posted last week, or updates to them. And so there's an open SIP right now for sBTC and one for Nakamoto. All of this stuff is up right now for debate and public comment, and you're able to participate. So just curious, Andre, like when you're trying to pitch different potential partners, like how you frame the like the addition of sBTC and the upgrades for Nakamoto to add to the Bitcoin connection between stacks, like being a true layer 2 Bitcoin settlement, actuated smart contracts, I guess increasing the overall liquidity of Bitcoin on stacks and the interoperability to stacks.
Yeah, I think that these are all interesting points here. I think on the liquidity side, we have the advantage of being able to work on the largest and most liquid cryptocurrency. And so, we're working to onboard a lot of that Bitcoin liquidity, potentially unlocking over $500 billion of liquidity onto the Stacks network for productive use cases. And I think a lot of our strategy with that starts with focusing on developers and making it a really good platform, providing an exceptional developer experience, and with the hope of providing basically a flywheel effect where we can attract developers to build new applications, applications can attract new users, users bring more capital, that brings liquidity. And so I think with that, we can really start to see an increase in liquidity on the Stacks network. I also think the point on interoperability is really key, and especially going into next year, bridges are a key part of our strategy, which can both see new stablecoin liquidity coming on to the Stacks network and also providing a really important on and off ramp for users from Ethereum DeFi and other DeFi ecosystems to come in and participate in the Stacks network. So both of those have, I think, are ways that sBTC can really increase the overall liquidity and connectivity of the Stacks network to other blockchains.
So in addition to network effect through just getting this amazing collateral of the Bitcoin asset passing through the pipes a bit better, also the developer experience, like you mentioned. And for Igor, there's, maybe you could help us understand, I don't know if you've been tracking the Clarity WASM work, but could you maybe help people understand how and why this would be an improvement to the developer experience and also maybe even to the user experience, what a project like this entails?
Yeah, so I love Clarity, so the project is really nice. It allows you to write, or to take your Clarity smart contracts and, for example, run it in a browser. So it is a runtime that takes the Clarity contract and compiles it to WASM, to WebAssembly, and then you can use it wherever you want to use it. And also the implementation could result in much faster execution, and that could mean that Stacks blocks can take much more transactions. So kind of increase in block size without increasing the block size, or something like that.
So we're talking about around April, we'll have blocks that settle in 5 seconds and smart contracts that have about 100x improvement in terms of execution speed, which I think is going to be very attractive to founders, developers, but also noticeable on the user experience side too. Jude, StackerDB. This is maybe not something that jumps out as being like the sexiest part of the whole project, but just curious if you could talk to us a little bit about StackerDB and why, how could this potentially be an important building block?
I was kind of surprised to see this on the talk at all, just because it's kind of deep in the system.
Yeah,
really
I think it's really cool. First, help everyone understand what it is.
Sure. So the problem we set out to solve here is because blocks in Nakamoto have to be signed by stackers, that introduces this new problem of how do the signers find each other, and how do they talk to each other, and how do they do so quickly. Now, you can build a signer network that does this, but then you have to solve all the same problems that you kind of already had to solve to build the blockchain peer-to-peer network, because you just know that those signers, they're going to be running behind network address translators. They're not going to be on the public internet. They're going to be behind firewalls. So how do they talk to each other? So what StackerDB lets you do is you can embed a peer-to-peer network that's connected to a smart contract within the Stacks peer-to-peer network. So Stacks nodes can help relay messages between endpoints, i.e. the signers in this case, but it's generic. It works with anyone with a conformant smart contract. The idea is that you as a node operator, can subscribe to one or more StackerDB instances. The StackerDB instance is controlled by a smart contract that determines who is allowed to write how much data to the replica. And StackerDB-aware Stacks nodes discover each other and automatically replicate changes to one another so that all replicas maintain an up-to-date view of the StackerDB contents. There will be at least one such StackerDB in Nakamoto for holding the signer's signing state when they do signing rounds and distributed key generation.
Crazy. And then, Mike, give us a sense of the sBTC tooling kit. There's a couple of APIs, the Bridge API, the Signer API. There'll be a UI, opportunities for other people to obviously plug those APIs into different UIs.
Yep.
How do you think about all of the tooling that goes into actuating sBTC?
So the way I think about it is that we're building tools for the community. I've got to shout out to Kenny, who's here, and Yannick as well, who I'm working with on that side. So I've kind of like gone ahead of the curve, I suppose, building the UI and the API, and then I also pulled out a common module of code that can be useful for building like payloads and sBTC-related payloads that go into transactions. And the API has got some useful endpoints for people who want to kind of like check a transaction, deconstruct the payload that's inside it. And then I think a lot of this code will actually go into Stacks.js eventually. I think Yannick is kind of rewriting my code at the moment and making it available through Stacks.js.
So applications that support Stacks.js they'll just inherit the ability to support.
It would just make it super easy for people to engage and create their own sBTC-related applications.
That's great. So, just as a closing question, is there one particular thing in 2024? We've got the halving coming up. We've got Nakamoto, sBTC. Is there anything that you're really looking forward to, just seeing come to life? We'll just start with you, Andre.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say sBTC.
Yeah.
I think that is really the big unlock, to unlock Bitcoin capital, be able to offer a better scaling solution to help Bitcoin reach billions of users and unlock a Bitcoin DeFi ecosystem on the layer 2 is all made possible through sBTC. So that's what I'm most excited for.
Jude, anything?
I'm looking forward to being done.
Yeah. You're looking forward to a vacation?
Again.
Yeah. How about you, Frigger? You need a vacation?
I think if Clarity has a bigger audience or developer ecosystem, that would be really nice, because I love the programming language.
How about you, Mike?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, need a holiday.
Yeah.
Love Clarity. I think Clarity is amazing. But just looking forward to that like integration of Bitcoin with a layer 2 that's going to actually add value and make Bitcoin scale and more usable.
Cool. Well, hang in there. We're turning the corner to the final push. So thanks for taking some time to help everyone better understand what's in the works right now. That's all. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.